Hello, gamers. I have been deep in the lab. Did that intro work? I'm not. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that intro worked. But guys, I have been deep in the lab about 13.19, trying to find some tech to get you guys ready. And let's just check it out. So I have some theory crafting stuff. So I can't guarantee this is going to be meta. This is a large patch we're going into. Might not seem large because there's a lot of small changes, but a lot of small changes add up to something special. And I'm really not sure what's going to be meta, but I'm just going to talk about some stuff I've been theory crafting and stuff I think that is worthy of trying and to think about going into the new patch. So let's just go here. Let's talk a little bit about legends real quick. Guys, this stuff's been keeping me up at night. I was laying in bed last night and I was like, oh, I could take Master Yi and do some pumping up and so that's what's been going on with me, and I just want to share this stuff with you guys. So let's check it out. So what are some legends I think will be good on the next patch? I talked about it in the patch rundown video, but let's talk about some of the combat Andes. I have some Master Yi strategies that I'm going to talk about in today's video. I think there is some pumping up battle ready stuff that you can do. I think Gotta Go Fast is not going to be as good on this patch unless you want to keep playing Challengers or Rogues, but Challengers and Rogues both got nerfed. I think Rogues aren't going to be super meta. I think in the right spot, like Vampiric Blade and stuff like that, Rogues will still be fine. And I think Challengers will still be fine in the right spot. If you guys want to play that Challenger strategy still, it probably will still be pretty good. Taking Master Yi and doing that stuff, but that's not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about some stuff on pumping up. We'll get into that. We're also going to be talking about Vlad. I think Vlad has a lot of good changes right now. Nothing got changed in his build, but I think a lot of the small patch changes is going to open up. I think what the devs are trying to do is they're trying to make a 4-cost flex meta, and I think you can take Vlad and flex around Aphelios, build a Rageblade and flex around Aphelios and Azir. I know Azir's build got some nerfs in it to some of the key units, but the key units got nerfed were the best frontline units like Nasus, like Jarvan, like Aatrox. They were just so OP, and a lot of the things that were keeping Azir down, like the 1-cost reroll spiking for free, a lot of those things have been nerfed. So I still think Azir could be viable in this patch. We'll see, but I think there definitely could be a strategy where you take Vlad, you take Transfusion, you can take Battle Ready if it looks good, but you probably can get offered better augments. Battle Ready is just a generic, pretty solid augment in most comps. And then you can move into Ascension if you're playing around Aphelios or Azir, and we'll get into that in a second. So that's a strategy we're going to talk about today's video. Another one we're going to talk about is item users. I think Urf can be good too. So Urf is not something I'm going to talk about, but I think Urf can definitely be good. I think you can play around verticals on this patch, but I'm not going to talk about that strategy. I just think that strategy is kind of boring. I think everyone knows what to do with that. You take Urf, you play the vertical. Boom. Okay, you get vertical Demacia. Cool, we're playing vertical Demacia. Oh, we get a bunch of Shurima emblems, playing Shurimas. And Shurima got buffed, so maybe Azir's build will change into being more Shuriman focused. We'll see. And maybe Urf is a strategy if that ends up happening, but we're not sure yet. But the main thing I want to talk about is Ezreal and Bard. Ezreal and Bard are very interesting to me. Now, Grab Bag and stuff like that have been nerfed, and Bard's third augment got changed a little bit, like Teaming Up and Jobs Done got reworked in a way that kind of nerfs it. But that's not really what we care about. What we care about is the first augment, Buried Treasures. So the reason why Buried Treasures and Bard's augment here, Caretaker's Favor and Caretaker's Chosen, I think it's actually going to be very good on this patch because I think a lot of the 4-cost comps uses items really well. Think back to the beginning of the set where a lot of people were playing Bard, or a lot of people were playing Ezreal and Ornn. Ornn got his power level taken down quite a bit. I'm going to pivot into playing around Bard and Ezreal. I think that might be the better strategy. Ornn could still be the better of the item users, but they did nerf a lot of the items. That's why people stopped playing like Bard and Ezreal and that sort of thing. But the reason why Ornn had so much dominance on the early part of the patch and we kind of switched over to Yi, and why a lot of people were playing Ezreal, is because general item power and item slamming is a lot better in this set, but specifically in 4-cost comps. Now you might be thinking, well, why don't we do that with the Fiora comp? The reality is the Fiora comp doesn't need a lot of items. You don't actually need any tank items in that comp. You just need carry items for your Fiora and Kai'Sa, and you can get that without taking item component augments, as well as that comp really needed combat augments is really what made it strong. The Master Yi augments and, all the stuff like LDP, social distancing, Gifts of the Fallen. You guys all know that stuff, right? But the Azir comps, the Aphelios comps, Sork comps, Xayah comps, those are comps that can use a lot of items. And so that's why I think Ezreal and Bard are going to be very, very, very good on this patch. So first up, let's just talk about the Master Yi strategy that we want to talk about. So here is a comp, and I'm not going to show all the comps because some of these comps you guys probably should know how to play or be familiar with, but I'm going to show you guys some of the comps that I think are a little bit less known about. If you guys follow my channel a lot, you'll know about this Mordekaiser build. So this was a comp that I was playing a lot at the beginning of the B patch, but unfortunately Fiora became meta, and Fiora is Mordekaiser's worst matchup. Now, assuming Fiora is not super meta, and I don't think she will be, I think she will be playable. There are some Demacia vertical stuff you can do. The Challenger build might still end up being pretty solid. It's probably good. That Challenger build is probably going to be good still with the Yi tech and taking good augments. But it won't be as, like, there won't be 3 Fiora players every game. So you can actually play frontline Mordekaiser. And so that's what I want to talk about here. So if you can get scoped weapons or RFC, that is always great on Mordekaiser. So you don't end up having to do this. But assuming you don't have that setup, just playing a general Mordekaiser strategy, I think pumping up is going to be great in a Mordekaiser strategy. And also I think Battle Ready is great for Mordekaiser. I don't think Ascension is. So if you end up wanting to play Master Yi as your legend, taking pumping up, I think you can do a strategy where you take pumping up and you just slam really good items. So what I love about Mordekaiser, the reason why I love the Mordekaiser build, is because you can slam Crown Guard. Crown Guard also got buffed. Crown Guard is a great flexible item because it's great on all of the early game and the end game tanks, except for it's not super good on Jarvan. But it's good on all, like Shin, Sejuani, that sort of thing. Super, super, super flexible item. And then a Nashor's Tooth item is really good early game item. So what we're looking at whenever we're playing Mordekaiser here with pumping up is we are willing to flex into the tankier comp. So we're willing to play Mordekaiser with pumping up. We're willing to play Azir with pumping up. I don't think that's as good as Mordekaiser and Aphelios. And you can play Aphelios with pumping up because we are going to be slamming a lot of early game items. A lot of early game items end up being like tank centric that are like really good slams. You know, think like Sunfire, Crown Guard, I think is going to be really good slam this time around. I think Nashor's is a great slam. Now that's not obviously a tank item, but that can allow you to flex Azir and Mordekaiser, right? You can slam big tank items, which is great for Aphelios comp, great for Azir comp, great for Mordekaiser comp. So I think pumping up could be a really great strategy with this. And Mordekaiser has really low AS, so he won't actually scale super great with pumping up. But what you need to know is since he has super low AS, what that should tell you is that it's super low because high AS is OP on him. And attack speed is super great on a lot of your supporting units in this comp as well. Quinn, Ashe, Kayle, attack speed's great in all of them. Once you cap out your board, you end up capping out with Aatrox, and you drop this for Kiana. Attack speed's great on Aatrox. A lot of times you can cap out not doing that by adding a Heimerdinger, taking out Ashe, playing Aatrox, swapping out Rek'Sai for Sion, and then Heimerdinger and Aatrox are also great with pumping up. So that's why I think that can be a good strategy. What I additionally want to talk about with the strategy is I put buried treasures on here because as you can see, there's a lot of places we can use items, right? And so Quinn, we can use a lot of items. Sejuani, we can use a lot of items. Mordekaiser, we can use a lot of items. We can itemize 9. We can use 9 items, and then Jarvan can take items as well. We can even build a Shiv here for Kayle, and that's actually pretty nice. She'll actually contribute a lot to your composition. So I also think you could do this same strategy, but take buried treasures or take Caretaker's Favor or Caretaker's Chosen, and just slam really good items and flex around those 3 comps like I just talked about, Mordekaiser, Azir, and Aphelios, because they can share a lot of items, because what's really important in these comps are tank items. Tank items are very important. If you play across the win condition of a Quinn 3, Quinn needs to cast 3 times usually to win you to the fight if you have a Quinn 3. So what's really important for that, if you end up wanting to play for that win condition, is tank items. And so maybe I'm going all over the place here, and maybe I'm getting people confused, so I just wanted to express this more. A big focus about the Mordekaiser comp is you just slam items, and Mordekaiser can use a lot of random items. That's what's great about Mordekaiser. So if you end up slamming like triple tank items, that's why you can think about flexing. If you end up getting a Rage Blade, then like obviously you can flex for Azir and Aphelios. You end up building, if you end up building a Crown Guard early game, doesn't necessarily mean you have to be Mordekaiser, because Crown Guard is great on Sejuani. It's great on most tanks. It's not super good on Jarvan and Nasus though. But yeah, that's why you can consider like flexing. But if you end up building a Nashor's, then you're probably going to flex around Mordekaiser and Azir. But if you just want to force Mordekaiser, I think his best in slot, assuming you don't have scoped weapons or RFC and doing all that stuff, I think his best in slot is actually Crown Guard Nashor's +1. And that +1 can be a QSS, an RFC, a Giant Slayer, maybe even a Jeweled Gauntlet. I think QSS is really underrated on Mordekaiser, especially in the pumping up versions. I think is very good. But anyways, if you guys want to force around Mordekaiser or maybe play flex in that style, I think taking pumping up and buried treasures can be very good. And the last thing I'll say about pumping up is, again, Quinn just needs to cast 3 times. And that little bit of extra attack speed on top of her Sojin might guarantee that she casts 3 times. And that usually wins you the fight if you have a Quinn 3 is the 3rd cast. All right, next up, we're going to be talking about Vladimir and playing some Vladimir strategies with Aphelios and Azir Flex. I'm not going to show you the Azir board because I feel like you guys should all know the Azir board, the Juggernaut Strategist Azir board. Now, that might still be the board, but also I think you guys should be looking to play Azir Vertical Shurima when you play Earth and you have emblems, or you just have emblems randomly like Placidium Library, that sort of thing. Or Shurima Legacy is back in the game. That has been added back into the game, and Shurima Legacy can be a great indicator to play Azir. So do not sleep on Azir. I've seen a lot of people comment that Azir is going to be dead. Maybe, but I think it could be a good strategy playing Vlad and flexing around Aphelios comps, Azir comps, and maybe even some Nico stuff. We're going to talk a little bit about Nico, but we'll get to that in a minute. So anyways, I just want to show you guys what the default Aphelios comp is. This is the default. There are many variations, and we're going to have to see a lot sprout up on the patches. Aphelios has not been meta this set yet, so that's why I just want to show you guys the default here and not loads of variations. And I'm not going to get too deep into the theory crafting. So the base variation is we play 4 Bastion here. We're going to itemize Shin as our main tank, and then we're going to put off-tank items on our Taric. Something like an Evan Shrine can be nice. Not necessary, but it can be nice. And then we're going to be playing the default backline is Jinx, Soraka, Silco, Aphelios. And as you see, it makes our synergies look really nice. When you cap out this board, you don't have to play Silco at all. That is not necessary. You could play a Heimerdinger here. You can play in a random Aatrox. If you get a Bastion minimum, you can play 6 Bastion. Can be very nice, right? And we're going to cap out our board. We're going to swap out Gangplank and take Jinx out. Unless Silco really needs the Zon mod. I don't imagine he'll really need the Zon mod where you don't run around a Gangplank. Gangplank got buffed. They buffed his mana buff, and the mana buff is significant. At the beginning of the PvE cycle, that was what his mana was, and he felt very strong in the beginning of the PvE cycle. I'm not talking about his bug where he was summoning the Grand Fleet. I just mean after they fixed the bug, he felt very strong, and they nerfed it down to 3 mana per auto attack on backline, and now they have reverted it. He felt pretty weak on that, so they reverted it. So you can cap out with like Heimerdinger, cap out with Gangplank, take out your Jinx here, and that sort of thing. That can be a cap out. You can keep Silco the whole game. And anyways, when you roll for this board on 7, you just roll for this board and then you minus one of these backliners. Sometimes you don't run Gunner, sometimes you don't run Soraka, sometimes you don't run Silco. It really depends on if you hit Silco, you're going to run Silco on your board, especially if you have items to play him. It's really who you have items for. Like if you have dual carry AD items, like you probably have to side carry your Jinx, right? And so, like, if you have an upgraded Soraka 2, but you don't have items to play Silco, and you just have a Silco 1, you probably run Soraka over Silco. So you got to just kind of play it by ear and play it what's going on. But let's talk about the augment strategy here. And then ideally, you want to get the 8. We're never going to fast 8. Fast 8ing is impossible in this set. It's impossible. It's been impossible for a long time. You got to roll in 7, guys. Don't fast 8. But ideally, we want to get the level 8, right? And so our augments here, we're going to take Vlad's augment. So Transfusion is going to be great. Healing Orbs is great in this comp. Healing Orbs scales off a Targon. We're running 3 Targon, can be great in this comp. And if you're going to run a setup like this, we definitely want to have Ascension. Ascension is great. Also, you can go Morning Light. Morning Light is great as well instead of Healing Orbs here. And then on Aphelios, which is going to be Rageblade +2 is really what we want to go. I think this item setup's pretty good. Runeans and Infinity Edge. And if you want to go the healing route, I think the healing item is better to put on Silco, but you can run Gunblade on Aphelios. That is fine as well. But I kind of like this setup here. And the idea of this comp is we want to stall out and win during Ascension. That is the goal. So we want to make sure we have tank items. So the priority in this comp when you're building items is going to be tank items and a Rageblade. That is what's most important. Don't worry about Silco's items. Just build tank items and a Rageblade. And if you end up getting a Gunblade drop early on in the game, Gunblade can be a good item to slam. So you just slam a Gunblade. That'd be fine. It can stay on your Aphelios. It can go over to Silco, all that good stuff. But we want to prioritize tank items and a Rageblade. And when you prioritize tank items and a Rageblade, you know what that opens you up to play? Azir. That is the indicator to play Azir. A lot of people get it twisted when they want to play Azir. They think they need Silco items, and they think they need like Giga Azir items. The true indicator to play Azir is big tank items with an attack speed item. That is also the same indicator to play Aphelios. So I think it'll be a good strategy to play around that flex, assuming these comps are good. Now, one thing I'm not going to talk about with some AD flex, I'm not going to talk about Xayah comp. I just don't have it on my list of comps to talk about. And I'll be the first one to tell you, I don't have a lot of practice playing it because it hasn't been meta. But I think it's pretty simple. If you get Ionia Emblem or Vanquisher, the Vanquisher augments, then you just play vertical Ionia for Vanquisher. I think you'll be good to go, especially with the mana nerfs or mana buffs to Xayah. I think you'll be good to go there. Probably be some 4 Vanquisher, 4 Juggernaut builds. We'll see how that goes. But we'll just have to see the patch go live. All right, next up, I just want to talk about some Nico variations, and I will be the very first person to tell you I have never played a Nico carry game, and anybody who says they've played loads of Nico carry games is a fucking liar because no way. But what I did do is I did do some research. I've watched some other Hyuo players play the comp. I watched Soju play this comp a few times. I listened to discussions of Ramblin', Frodan, and Dishup. I wasn't in the call, but I was sitting there listening intently because between all of them, they've had a couple of games. I've had no Nico games, but everybody's basically just had like 1 or 2 games, the people who have had them in Hyuo. So I just want to talk about Nico because there's a lot of ways you can build Nico, and we'll talk a little bit about the backline here. I'm not really certain on augments. Again, I'm the first one to tell you I've not played this comp, and anybody else who's played this comp has only played it like once or twice. So what's going on here is a lot of speculations. But what I've gathered from the discussion from other Hyuo players and what I kind of think is there are a bunch of different ways to build Nico, but the best way and most consistent way to build Nico is probably like a tank with a damage lean is probably like the most consistent way to play here. So we're going to go through a couple of these. So right here is Nico. This is a way to build Nico. This is a damage Nico with a tank lean. So what I mean, you're prioritizing damage, so she's mainly dealing damage, but we have a tank lean because we got Crown Guard. Crown Guard's getting buffed. I think it'll be one of her best items. And then BT, which is going to make her very tanky and sustain up. Next up, another super consistent version of Nico is a tank with a damage lean. So we have Crown Guard, which gives her some damage, gives her a little bit of tankiness. And notice we have armor that we get from this, right? And then we have Ionic Spark, which gives us a little bit of magic resist, gives us a little bit of damage, right? Gives us a tiny bit of tankiness. And then we have our Warmogs, which is going to scale up on our resist right here, and we can be good to go. You can replace this with another tank, but I think Warmog is going to be your best bet here, combined with the Bastion resist as well as the resist we're going to get from these items here. And so this, again, is tank with a damage lean. And from what I gathered from everybody, these two are probably going to be the most consistent ones to play. And we'll talk about some Ixtal variations in a second. Nico, this is damage. This is just damage Nico, straight up. Damage Nico. This one might be... This is the one I'm most uncertain about. This could end up being very strong. We'll see. We'll have to figure it out. This could be very strong, especially with like Ice Ixtal. This is probably very strong with Ice Ixtal. We'll see. And then this is just pure tank Nico. And this is going to be more of like you're carrying like an Aphelios or a Karma in your backline. That's probably going to be the more focus of this. And you can reroll for a Nico 3. And she is more of a tank. This is like a wood variation that we're going to talk about here. So let's talk about the Ixtals. Some of the Ixtals I think will be the best. Let's see if this is going to show it to me or if I'm just going to have to do it all for rip. Okay. Some of the ones I think that are going to be the best are going to be wood, and when you play wood, you can still play damage Nico. That's fine. You're going to be it's going to be great. But I think wood, maybe the best variation is probably play tank with a damage lean with like a Karma 3 carry in the backline or Aphelios or something like that. That's probably going to be the best up. But I think wood will be very good. You can still play pure damage. I think stone's going to be very good on any version of Nico. Probably going to lean a little bit more towards damage Nico on stone. And then ice I think is going to be great with any variation, but especially damage Nico because she will de-aggro she kills the front line. She de-aggroes, the back line starts walking up to start killing your Karma, your Aphelios, whatever's back here, and then she re-aggroes and jumps on the back line. So I think if you have Ice Ixtal, probably lean more towards the damage. So this is just some theory crafting stuff here and some backliners that's going to support Nico. Obviously, it's going to be very easy for you to play around invokers and play around like Bastions and Targon. I think is going to be the best bet to play because Targon helps scale Nico. Naturally, you want to play Milio in your backline, and so naturally you'd want to pair it with Karma. Karma's a 3 cost. Nico is a 3 cost. You're going to roll at the same time. Soraka's a 2 cost. You can play Soraka 3. We could roll for a 3-star Taric, assuming we're not contested in that lobby with like Sork players or Aphelios players, that sort of thing. So I think that some of the best backliners are going to be Karma, Aphelios, Soraka are going to be some of the best backline carries. Obviously, you can play some rogue variations. There's probably going to be a few other variations that I'm not really thinking about here, but I think this is going to be the most consistent to play around because you're able to naturally get in Targon, which is going to help out Nico a lot. And we can go some like Gunblade variations. There's some Sork variations that we can probably play here. But yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about Nico here and just kind of, you guys definitely need to look out for Nico. She's getting buffed and Crown Guard got buffed. And the last thing I want to talk about here is I want to talk about this Vanquisher Ash build. And so this is what the build looks like. It is essentially, you play this, the indicators to play this is Ionia emblem, or you just have a lot of ashes. You just have like, you go into stage 3 with 5 ashes. Okay, it's ash time, baby. I don't think this is something you force into unless it ends up being really OP. But let's see. Let's look at some other augments here as well, because some good things. March of Progress. So if you guys have never played March of Progress, there's only 65 games here. But the way you play March of Progress is you want to play a 2 or 3 cost reroll build usually. So when I get offered March of Progress, what I've been doing is I've been playing reroll Slayers. I've been rerolling Quinn, and then like, you know, I play Quinn 3 and I'll hit my Mordekaiser ward. It spikes on 7. I can roll a little bit on 6. So I like to play that. But this is also a build I'm going to add into my rotation. So if you offer March of Progress, I think you should look to play Slayers or look to play this Ash Vanquisher build. You know, just play whatever the line you're getting offered. You can also play like reroll Invokers. Invokers should be a little bit better on this patch, assuming we're in a slower meta. That should be pretty good on this patch, right? So let's look at some good indicators. So Stolen, if you get Stolen Vitality, you'll get dropped in Ash, right? And if you have some extra ashes, it looks like you can reroll it. Stolen Vitality is going to be right for you. Ionia Crest. Double Trouble Tech. Now, again, we have a small sample size here, but this could be a good Double Trouble build. You add the 2 ashes, right? Trade Sector is on here because when you go offer Trade Sector, typically what you want to do with Trade Sector, people have been doing this really weird. They've been rerolling 1 cost. I think it's just because 1 cost meta was so oppressive. Typically, when you get offered Trade Sector, you want to reroll 2 and 3 cost because you want to be pushing levels and then use that tempo, and then you get a lot of free rerolls. You're level 6 and level 7 for a very long time, and so that's usually why you want to reroll for those things, because you'll just naturally be getting a lot of those shops. It looks like we have some Freaky Friday stuff. Really low sample size, guys. Really low sample size. Sentinel Spirit. This is like you take Sentinel Spirits and then you get the Ionia emblem and you're carrying there as well, because we're playing a lot of Ionias. But again, let's just look at the comp again. The core of it, you're playing vertical Ionia, but when you're rerolling, you're going to be rerolling for Set and Ash, and sometimes you can get a Gen 3. Gen 3, no items. Absolutely fucks. So look out for that. If you get a Vanquisher emblem, it goes on Karma, and then you move the item over to what's her face later, Ari. Obviously, we're going to be playing Darius, and then we're going to be playing our Zaya over here, of course. Itemization, you almost always want to go Last Whisper on Ash, and then probably a Deathblade is going to be great here. But we'll see how this goes. I just wanted to bring up this build. I'll be the first to tell you, I haven't played this comp since PBE, and this comp is starting to pop up right now on live. It's not super good. It's super good if you are high rolling, but you're going to see a lot of people playing it on live right now because they're just bored. But as you can see, the placement rate is very good, but look, the play rate is really, really, really low. But I think this will be very good in the right spot on the next patch, so make sure you guys look out for that. Anyways, guys, this is some of the tech I've been cooking up, some things I've been thinking about. Just wanted to share it with you guys to get you guys ready for the patch. Who knows what'll happen tomorrow? Everything I said in this video could be mute, but I don't think so. So we'll see. I'll catch you guys tomorrow. I'll be streaming. Woohoo! I stream here on YouTube.